Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of Keith Reinhard, who was a sports writer for the Chicago Daily Herald, which he had been for 22 years. He lived in Algonquin, which is a suburb of Chicago. He just really hated big city life, and he had a midlife crisis, which he desperately wanted to find a way out of. Then in 1988, the 50-year-old journalist went off for a career break and tried to write a novel in a small town called Silver Plume. It was a town that used to be pretty busy during the gold rush days. There was an economic depression known as the Panic of 1893, which led the United States government to switch from a silver gold standard to an all gold one, sending the value of silver plummeting, and that ruined the town. So ever since then, it's been a ghost town, which definitely led to drawing people in due to that nature. But Keith went there, and he rented his shop to sell antiques to summer visitors in the area, and he also rented an apartment at the back of an abandoned Catholic church. That's where he began writing his book. Now, the shop was located in a building called the Knights of Pythias building. I hope that's how you pronounce it. And he was renting it from his friend Ted Parker, whom also lived there. And once he found out that the former owner of the shop, Tom Young, had mysteriously disappeared, Keith became obsessed with the strange disappearance and death of Tom Young. He abandoned the initial idea for his novel and started writing exclusively detailed notes of all the conversations he'd had with locals about Tom's disappearance. And the book featured a character called Guy Gypsum, who was a combination of Tom and himself. Now, originally he had decided to go to the town to try and live there on his own for a while, and he told his wife, because he was married and he had a daughter, that he was going to stay there alone for some time, and then eventually she could come over as well. And Carolyn, his wife, agreed to it begrudgingly. So who was Tom Young? Now, Tom Young was a former high school art school teacher and a retired U.S. Army Special Forces veteran. He lived alone with his beloved dog, a black lab named Gus. He ran the previous bookstore in Silver Plume called the Charing Cross Station. He mostly kept to himself, avoiding social contact with others, and residents of the town called him eccentric, saying he would play catch with his dog using a baby doll head. And he was more than happy spending time with Gus and his books and walking in the Rockies. Now, the people in town did respect him, so it's not like he was mistrusted or anything like that. Now, Tom had been seen for last time on September 7th, 1987, walking off into the Rocky Mountains. He had reportedly told people that he was traveling to Europe for a vacation, but his family knew nothing of this. And when police checked the usual boarding kennels that Gus was sent to regularly, he was not there, and there was also no record of plane tickets having been bought. So on July 31st of 1988, some local hunters found a skeleton about an hour's hike from Silver Plume with a bullet hole in the skull. The investigators identified the remains as being Tom Young. A Smith & Wesson Model 36 and a backpack were found near Tom's body, as well as Gus, whom had also been shot. The gun was Tom's own gun. He'd bought it just days before his disappearance, and this led the police to suspect that the death had been self-inflicted, and this was also put on the autopsy report. Locals, however, suspected foul play because there was a tarp apparently pulled over the body, and the fact that they would never hurt Gus. On August 3rd, Keith attended a memorial service for Tom Young, of course being obsessed with Tom. And just before the service, he spoke to an old friend back in Chicago on the phone about his chances of becoming a new Bulls writer at his old paper. So it seemed that Keith was considering going back to his old job. Then a few days later, on August 7th of 1988, Keith closed his shop and told his friends in Silver Plume that he was going to go hiking up the nearby Pendleton Mountain. Despite having been known for fear of heights, at a party he had attended the night before, he had told a bunch of people about how he thought that Tom's death was not self-inflicted, and he was also seen speaking to an unidentified female. On the day of, Keith was last seen leaving town at 4:50 p.m., and people thought it was rather strange because getting to the mountains was a 6-hour round trip. He also wasn't wearing any proper hiking gear, he was wearing tennis shoes, and didn't have appropriate clothing for the cold temperatures up on the mountains. Now, Ted Parker, his friend, thought Keith was just messing around when he dropped in at his cafe to tell him of his plans and saying that he would be back in town around 10 p.m. and then jokingly said, "If I don't come back, call on the rescue." So Keith headed off towards the mountain and was never seen again. The only clue left behind by Keith as to what on earth he might have been trying to do was a piece in his book concerning the main character, Guy. At some point the text read, "Guy Gypsum changed into some hiking boots and donned a heavy flannel shirt. He understood it all now and his motivation. Guy closed the door, then walked off towards the lush, shadowless Colorado forests above. So a search was started, and the search was called off on August 12th when a Cessna Civil Air Patrol plane carrying 2 rescuers crashed into Pendleton Mountain on August 11th, killing the pilot Terry Leddens and seriously injuring the spotter Don Dropney. So there's some contradicting stuff there. He was afraid of heights. In his book, he says that the main character at least knew what he was doing and he was going to go into the forests, but he also inquired about maybe getting a job back in Chicago as well. Now, somewhere else I read that apparently they were finding bodies in peaks nearby, not these 2 people in particular. So there was talk of a serial killer roaming the area, which of course had become more believable because of the bodies they were finding. Also, conspiracy theories started surfacing involving illegal dumping of radioactive materials in the old mine shafts in the area. And Detective Dave Downhauer of the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Department has said of the case, what happened to Keith Reinhard and Tom Young has been knocked around and embellished so much, it's hard to know where the truth ends and glamorization begins. So there's a lot of rumor and speculation around this case, but not much facts other than what we know now. So that is how we're going to take a look at this case using the tarot, and we're going to start off with the Wise Dog Tarot. And for any further questions, moving on to the Crow Tarot deck. So as per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the cards. As soon as I have about a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we have a little bit too little space here, but let's take a look at the top left. We have the 2 of Swords, and then the World in reverse, and then the 2 of Cups in reverse. Now the 2 of Cups did initially kinda land in reverse, and then it slid onto its side, so I feel like this is a bit of a doubtful 2 of Cups in reverse that we have here. But the 2 of Swords is showing being kind of 2 minds, usually trying to make a decision, not quite decided yet. I'm also looking at the owl that's sitting on the moon, which to me suggests that there is a certain hidden element to the decisions that they're making. Like maybe they're planning something secretly, I guess. And let's see, they don't seem to be very large. I think this is a corgi, and they're in a snowy area, so this could be like a mountainous area. I believe there is quite a bit of snow in Colorado, also depending on, of course, what month it is. I believe it was in August. That would be late summer, kind of heading towards maybe some autumn. There may have been some snow, at least at the peaks there would have been snow. But anyway, so it kind of reminds me of a small dog that feels like they're bigger than they actually are, and making decisions with that type of mindset as well. Like, oh, I can do this, even though in reality they might not be as big and as tough as they think. But we have the World here in reverse, and it's kind of like normally people, when at least when I have a World in reverse in these types of reading, I feel like people are being hidden from the world. But this seems more like they wanted to be hidden from the world. They want to just kind of leave things behind. Now, Keith did want to leave the city behind with his trek to Colorado. But this is more of the past August 7th, I think it was, when he disappeared. The desire to kind of just drop off the map for a while at least. And we have here the 2 of Cups, which I think since it kind of landed like this initially and then slid onto its side, like initially just kind of signing off from certain mindsets and then maybe later coming back on that, like having some doubts about their previous decision to no longer agree with certain mindsets, certain thought patterns. Like maybe they initially think like, oh, I don't need any of this stuff, and these people are just kind of, I don't know, full of shit. Maybe, I don't know how to put that, when they say that you need XYZ in order to do this and that, but I'm going to show them that it's going to be different, or I'm going to be able to do that without all the extra stuff that they say that you need. Kind of like I have this vibe that he's being a little bit defiant here. Like he's got this thing about, I'm going to go show him what I can do over there with the corgi on the left, and wanting to disappear from the world, and thinking that he is just going to be able to do that because for whatever reason he is smart, capable enough to do the things that other people deem to be unwise. So there is that. So this sounds like the start of his expedition. Then we had judgment in reverse. Could be that people were not judging him correctly, or perhaps he himself did not judge things as well as he probably should have. And we have the Four of Wands also reverse. So that is a card that is basically saying the harmony that we would normally see on the Four of Wands, to just be having a good time, things just being right, feeling in balance, that type of thing. Actions leading to further actions, and you're in kind of a flow. That is not happening. So I'm thinking that he's kind of struggling at this point. Maybe he feels like people were judging him in his previous life, and now he's kind of struggling even though he had decided to do this thing by himself. I feel like this is a moment of doubt in his endeavors. But on this row, we're starting off with the Magician and the Nine of Pentacles. So Nine of Pentacles is like feeling pretty good about your options, your resources, that type of thing. Magician is feeling capable, so I do feel like at some point he felt like he was top of the world and able to do whatever it is that he wanted to do, more capable than possibly people gave him credit for, and just finding his way, or at least finding that he's able to get things done more or better than possibly even he thought. At least that point he was feeling pretty good. But that switches pretty quickly over here with the Ten of Swords, where we're looking at a very melancholic type of situation. At least I'm also drawn to look at the dog top right with what I'm guessing is their owner beyond the clouds, and there are a lot of butterflies surrounding it as well. I think I've said that before. Certain cultures, butterflies kind of represent spirits, and in other words, like an afterlife type of thing. Dog in the card is feeling very melodramatic, so I'm thinking that he's hit like a certain bad spot here, like a depressive mood, anxiety, possibly thinking of better days, maybe also just with his head in the clouds. Like if you're in a spot of bother and you're still feeling like everything is going your way, there is a certain denial happening there. So maybe once he is coming back down to earth to see his actual reality, his actual situation, he's feeling very bad about it. Possibly making, at least regretting a lot of choices that he's made. We have here the Three of Swords, kind of like a three is a crowd, but I'm also kind of reminded of the Three of Wands in a way. This dog is looking pretty old. Maybe his heart won't be able to make it anymore, but more like wishing for connections that they used to have. Like I said, reminding me of the Three of Wands, wanting to make plans to go places. There's a bit of regret, but also a bit of wishful thinking over here, which is not strange with regret, but still a bit of a double meaning there. Then we have these cards that didn't quite fit on the end. So this is the Six of Cups, and that is also a melancholy card because we're looking at the past over here. This dog just looks really sad for some reason. It doesn't appear to be looking down, but there's just something about his eyes that is pretty haunting. So like looking into the past, I guess, and just looking back on the things that they used to have. Initially, when I wanted to pick up this card, I thought it was the Five of Cups, and that has a bit of regret and crying over spilled milk and not wanting to look at the things that we do have. And I kind of do catch that vibe with this card as well. Like he's just looking back at the way things used to be, possibly regretting decisions that he's made that led him to this location when he would rather be back home. Like maybe this is, I would rather be back in Chicago doing my boring sports journalism job than be out here in this terrible problem that I have, this wilderness area that I'm not familiar with. We also have the Seven of Wands, so we're being challenged here, and then we have the Lovers in reverse. Alright, so that's kind of like the more serious version of the Two of Cups over here. And now it's definitely in reverse, so his heart's definitely not in it anymore, and he feels challenged. So I'm thinking that they initially may have headed into the mountains or the forests like he wrote about, thinking that he was this guy, the character from the book, and that he was just going to be able to do things like that. Like, as a writer, I suppose he's been so involved in this character, feels like he knows them through and through, because of course he created this character based on Tom and himself, and he feels like he can do the things that he has had the character do, that he's been writing about. But then turns out that that's not quite the case. It's a little bit more complicated than that. Reality is not quite as simple, and you can't just turn off the computer and go back to living in your apartment if you don't feel like it for a second. So he's feeling challenged, and also no longer really believing himself to be Guy in this case, I think. Maybe also kind of like breaking his obsession with Tom a little bit. Like, I imagine that he was writing about Tom, and he started taking notes about all the stuff that people said about him, and I guess he really got sucked into that whole story, and maybe he thought he was going to solve the mystery somehow, or find out stuff more about him that nobody else could, and went up there feeling all heroic. And at this point he's feeling like, well, damn, he's already dead, what am I doing out here, and what is this all about, what is it for, that type of thing, and why do I care? That's kind of what the vibe I'm getting over here with these last two. So we haven't found him at all, but let's see if the Crow Terrier can help us with that. So far he appears to be wherever he went. I'm guessing he went into the forest because that's what he wrote about. Could have gone up another mountain or another trail, we don't know, but it looks like he's now having some doubts, or a lot of doubts rather, and possibly trying to find some way out. So what happens next? And are we ever gonna find him? Because I don't believe we have. Oh, this one too. We have Judgment again. We had Judgment here, but that was in reverse. Now it's upright, so maybe now he's judging it himself. Judgment Day may be arriving. We have the Knight of Cups as well, feeling very bad, very bad, mostly for ourselves, about situations, focusing mostly on our own emotions. Maybe also judging ourselves over focusing on our own emotions. Like, that's what the Judgment card might also be pointing towards, like feeling really bad for himself that he's stuck in this situation, but also kind of judging himself for feeling bad about it. Like, don't be such a crybaby, man up, that type of thing. Okay, that's one that fell off the side, and then a couple over there. The Ace of Pentacles. Alright, so now we're looking at the investment that we've made, and we're starting to draw the conclusion that it's not a good thing. We did not make a good decision there. We have 3 cards here, among which the Devil in reverse. We're letting things go that we used to focus a lot on, as a matter of fact, because of the 8 of Pentacles over here. And the King of Swords in reverse. So maybe we're lying to ourselves, or we're trying to be smart to make good decisions, but possibly lacking the knowledge to do so. We are working very hard on that, though, with the 8 of Pentacles right there. I kind of feel like the 8 of Pentacles kind of split between these 2 cards. Like, initially he was very much obsessed with Tom and the Tom story, what happened to them, and that brought him there, and he's worked very hard on that. But now he's working very hard on trying to get out of the situation over here with the King of Swords on the end over here. Though it's not, I guess these efforts were not well spent, or he's just thinking down the wrong path, like the wrong train of thoughts, because he just doesn't know what the correct trains of thoughts in these situations are. Maybe he's heard something about wilderness survival that turns out not to be true. Like, there are quite a few shows and things out there that people say about what you should and shouldn't do when you're out in the wilderness. And when you actually ask somebody who knows a thing or two about survival, they'll say that most of that is probably nonsense, or not quite as simple as it is proposed. by the people who talk about these things on, say, TV and stuff like that. So maybe he's trying to do the right thing, trying to be smart about it, but just not having the right information to be smart enough to get himself out of the situation. Right there. So let's see what happens next. Okay, this is Ace of Swords. Alright, so we have a new initiative coming up. Maybe this one is a little better because this is an upright Ace of Swords, so we're putting some time and effort to thinking up a new idea which may help. Alright, that's positive at least. This might be an idea based on the King of Swords reversed card. In other words, maybe this new idea is based on the incorrect facts, but we'll see how it goes. Five of Swords in reverse. Okay, so we might be arguing with ourselves, or possibly we're not challenging this idea because it is in reverse. So maybe this new idea is followed blindly. And they may also be hanging on to the thought that they are right, because you can see the crows up there flying away and the one on the ground is just clutching these two swords like, yeah, see, I'm right. This is what I'm gonna do because I figured it out and this is how it needs to be done and nobody can tell me otherwise. I doubt that he ran into anybody up there, but well, we don't know that actually. But I think this is more of an internal argument with himself. Maybe even arguing with the character that he had written about, like possibly trying to, at the one hand, channel this character whom I'm assuming was a bit more capable than the average person. More of a wilderness explorer, possibly. Oh, there we go. And then finding to be incorrect somehow, just kind of challenging themselves as well through that. Queen of Swords. Alright, so we are now at least upright with a Swords card. So maybe we are now trying to be better and make better decisions, like we've possibly learned from the problems that were caused by the incorrect thinking that we were doing over here with the King of Swords. And now we're trying to correct ourselves by being actually smart about things. Then we have the Two of Swords. Alright, but we are of two minds now. We started off with a Two of Swords right underneath all this, and now we're back with a Two of Swords right at the end over here. So that's interesting. So even though we are now thinking with our head on straight, we are now wondering about what choice to make. Possibly this one is also in the mountains, so maybe they're like at a certain point and they have to pick a trail and they're not quite sure which one to go for. Alright, let's switch back to the wise dogs. So what happens next? Oop, someone immediately flips. Knight of Cups again. So once again we have our heart on our sleeve. We're starting to panic, I feel. At this point they have to make a choice and they're not sure which is going to bring them the right direction to go in, and possibly they picked one and it's not quite as good as they had hoped, and now they're starting to feel really bad about that choice they made, but also just feeling really bad for themselves that they're in this situation and how can this happen to me, because of course most people don't think that anything bad's ever going to happen to them, at least not to this level, this extent. So when something does happen that's pretty disastrous, it may seem unreal and you might feel very bad about things, obviously. Now, King of Pentacles in reverse. Alright, so we've lost a lot of things over here, even though we are trying to balance things. So this might be them trying to balance whatever they may have brought with them in ways of water or food, although I don't believe that they brought a lot, so maybe they're now kind of like trying to gather berries or something along those lines, or trying to figure out which plants might be edible or anything along those lines, because they may not have brought anything, but now they're trying to be practical, even though the world is kind of against them because, well, the odds are anyway, because it just didn't bring enough for an actual hike. We have the Three of Pentacles, and interestingly enough, that means working together with somebody. Maybe they encountered something, but also looking at these bottom pentacles over there, they appear to be like at the end of either a pipeline or a barrel or something. And that reminds me of those illegal dumping operations that there were speculated to be occurring in old mine shafts. I don't know if that's related, but maybe they encountered somebody who knows a bit more about that or has something like that up their sleeve. And it almost looks as though they're being asked to follow them, like, oh, I know the way because there's a road right here, like, oh, we can do this together, I can bring you home, that type of thing. So maybe he encountered somebody who was going to lead them to safety, at least pretended to do that. And then we have the Two of Pentacles in reverse. Or is this Two of Wands? I think it's the Wands one. Yeah, I don't see a pentacle. There's just a triskelion over there. So the Two of Wands in reverse. Okay, so now we are definitely going the wrong way. And maybe led astray as well, because we do still see the two dogs here. Initially we saw that this person was telling them that they need to go this certain direction, and that everything was going to be okay, possibly, if they were to follow them toward that road. And then it turns out that it's not quite what they had hoped for. Possibly they're not being outright dismissive of this choice that this other person may have made for them, but more like starting to realize that this is also not the direction that they should have been heading in. Like it's starting to dawn on them. And yeah, okay, this one, the Nine of Swords. Okay, so now we're very worried, and this one is in reverse, so that tends to be a type of worry that has been there for a while. The anxiety is coming back up, so possibly the anxiety that they felt beforehand, the stress and the woe is me is starting to basically metastasize, like it's starting to become serious and kind of like a background noise type of thing. They're not feeling very comfortable at all. And then we have the Eight of Swords in reverse. Okay, so we do want to believe that we're doing the right thing, because the Eight of Swords is like trapping yourself in this mental space. It is in reverse, so maybe they're trying to break free from that, but it could also mean that they're just unwilling to even consider letting go of certain thoughts and ideals. Like maybe they have to believe that they will eventually reach that road that this person promised, because there's just no other options, and they have to believe that things are going to be okay because the opposite's just not an option for them, which doesn't mean it won't be a reality, but maybe that's what they're going through. And then we have another one jumping out off screen though. It is Temperance. Yeah, we're definitely trying to keep her cool here. And possibly it's starting to turn nighttime, because we do see like a sun up there, but it's more like they're looking at the sun, maybe trying to stare it back up into the sky as the night starts to fall. But they're trying to keep their cool, and maybe they know that eventually the sun is going to go down, and they're not going to be able to see anything with the light that the sun usually gives, because there is an eye in the middle of the sun right there. Let me put it back up there so you can see. There you go, has an eye right there. And also the dog's eye is very detailed, at least striking, I would say. And they're really looking at the sun's light, hoping that they can see. Maybe they're trying to keep cool, like, okay, there's still a little bit of sunlight. I might be able to find the way that I'm looking for. No time to panic yet. In any case, panicking doesn't help. Just try to stay cool, try to stay calm. We're going to figure this out, like that type of thing. Oh, yeah, I wanted to put that on top, but it slid off. But we have the Hierophant in reverse over here. So maybe at this point, whomever is telling him that this is the right way to go is now being slowly revealed, as even though they seemed like an authority, they're definitely misleading them. We also have another King of Swords. I think this is somebody else. This is not Keith. I think this is the person who is also being represented by the Hierophant in this case, like definitely up to no good. So maybe there is a second or possibly even a third person there who is trying to lead them astray for whatever reason. Let's see how this ends. That one did want to slide after all. Okay, who is this? The Chariot. Okay, so now we're moving pretty quickly. So maybe things are just moving really quickly. They do kind of look like dogs charging at them. It could be that whoever this other person is now moving things, escalating very quickly now. Possibly Keith is no longer in control. Maybe they are the ones that are currently in control of the situation and moving things very quickly forward for whatever plan that they've got going on. So how does it end? That one. This is Seven of Swords. This is Deceit. So whoever this person over here is with the King of Swords and the Chariot is now actually bringing out the dagger to stab them in the back, possibly figuratively, possibly realistically, I don't know exactly, but it looks as though the Deceit is now abundantly clear. Oh, that one's on the floor. And we have the Page of Pentacles. So I'm thinking that they are investing things incorrectly. Maybe they are now realizing that they put their eggs in the wrong basket as well. Like I said, the Deceit is clear and they are now coming to roost those chickens basically. Whoop, okay. We have Lovers in Reverse and the Hanged Man. Alright, so we're taking a new perspective, but we are also no longer believing that this person is doing anything right by them. And we are trying to, I guess, collect ourselves, get new bearings, but the Hanged Man over there. Okay, and the Eight of Wands in reverse. Things are possibly moving too quickly. Also, Eight of Wands is telling me that there is no chance of communication over here. They can't contact anybody. Usually Eight of Wands is also like a communication thing, possibly trying to reach out, but it's in reverse, so there is no way to reach out, and it almost seems as though these wands are going to hit the bird. Normally you would think they would fly with them, but the I don't know if those are the handles, but they appear to be coming this way, and that's where the bird is flying. So whatever's going on, and also the wind appears to be blowing against them, so things are really not going their way. Literally they are going against them, so they're catching some headwind there, some opposition, and they're unable to communicate with anybody who might be able to help. There is no charity, exactly what I was just saying. Six of Pentacles in reverse. There's no charity given. There's nobody who is going to give them any sort of help out there in their remote area. Possibly they're also being told that, like, yeah, you can yell all you like, but there's nobody here going to come and help you because nobody's going to hear you. This place is way too big for there to be anybody nearby who could do anything to save you now, like that type of thing. So possibly that was also the goal of the Three of Pentacles earlier, this person to take them out to a location that was going to be remote enough for them to not have to worry about any third party showing up and catching them doing whatever it is that they wanted to do. We have the Five of Pentacles in reverse, so that's also like a bankruptcy card. Possibly the realization that they are now left with nothing because there isn't anything they can do. Oh, that one almost fell on the ground. I'm grabbing it before it goes. Alright, let's see. We have a couple cards here. We have the Three of Cups and we have the Ten of Swords. So it's an interesting combination right there, because normally Three of Cups would be like three people coming together and having a party or something. But this could also be agreeing with whomever is standing right in front of him, because he's very much worried that things are going to go very south very quickly. Maybe that they have no choice but to agree with whomever is standing in front of them, because there's not much else they can do. And then we have the Seven of Wands in reverse. So somebody coming for them and there's not much they can do about that. Actions against them that they cannot fight, I think, is what this is pointing towards. Alright, so whoever they encountered, it looks as though they may have encountered somebody, but they were definitely not on their side. They pretended to be initially, and then they ended up in a trap. But are we ever going to find anything of Keith? Because I haven't seen too much about that. Looks like he wandered off on his own, possibly encountered somebody who had bad intentions, and I'm assuming the way these cards are going that these bad intentions eventually led to Keith not coming back. But are we ever going to find anything of him? Whoops, okay. We have the Six of Wands and we have the Five of Swords. Okay. So we have some arguing here, and we have some, normally the Six of Wands is somebody being celebrated for being like in a great position, but it looks as though somebody might be arguing with somebody whom has lost face, possibly. So somebody who's lost face and has some type of argument going on with somebody else, possibly maybe also trying to run for the world, might be involved in finding out what happened to Keith. So maybe somebody who is just out there in the wilderness, possibly because they just can't agree with people in their life for whatever reason. Somebody who may not be able to make it in society might be out there, like maybe an ex-con or something, trying to make it in the woods without having to deal with anybody. And then we have the Four of Swords. So this is somebody who's fairly restless and also unable to take a break to look at things from a different perspective. So somebody who has a certain one-trick mind. Maybe they're also heading out into the wilderness because they feel connected, or they have heard of other people disappearing and are just kind of single-mindedly focusing on that, possibly as a bit of a redemption type of thing. Like, if I can do that, and maybe I can bring myself back into public graces, that type of thing. But in any case, they're singularly focused on this. Oh, there's quite a lot of cards there. Okay, so these will be the final cards then. Alright, so we have Page of Pentacles, so we are definitely taking an initiative here with some resources. Possibly this will be preparing to go into the wilderness, possibly for their own reasons. They may not be specifically looking for Keith, but they might just be out there thinking that there's something that they need to find, or something that they're looking for within themselves out in the wilderness. Happens as well. They're preparing in any case. Queen of Swords in reverse, and the Knight of Swords also in reverse. Okay, so it's two sword cards that are in reverse. Maybe we're dealing with two people whom occasionally argue and maybe can't stand each other over here with the Six of Swords, but they're Six of Wands, but they're just kind of like stuck together and working on the same thing. possibly trying to do things together as well, and neither of them is particularly good at making great decisions because they're both in reverse, or they're both kind of like tricksters, possibly tricking each other or constantly lying for their own benefit. And we have the Seven of Pentacles, kind of like looking on the vine to see what you've sown and what the harvest is going to look like. It is upright, so possibly they are on a path that's going to lead them somewhere where they want to go, and they definitely don't want to abandon it either, because we have here the Eight of Cups in reverse. Eight of Cups is normally like a walking away, and the in reverse version, I would say unable to walk away, or possibly just not even considering walking away from whatever this is. So this is an interesting lineup over here. So I'm guessing there are two individuals that have some trouble, possibly with society, possibly with law. They have a singular focus that kind of binds them together over here with a new initiative that they have prepared for with the Ace of Pentacles. It almost seems a little bit like prospecting as well, because you have this river in the background, and that instead of things going on the vine, they're just like, oh, I know a place where I can go and we can maybe grab some silver or something. Oh, that kind of reminds me, because of course with the current economic state, people are more interested in precious metals, and even though gold is traditionally considered the most valuable, which it definitely is, the moment it's very expensive, but silver is also not doing too badly. In any case, maybe there might be people who are drawn to the area because of course it is a silver mining town officially, and because it's kind of like a ghost town, they don't expect people to be there and get in their way maybe, and they may be going into those old mines and maybe they'll find something there. Possibly Keith might be found in a place where they actually expect to find things of value. Maybe that's what we're looking at over here. That is what I'm seeing for Keith Reinhard. I hope you found that interesting. In any case, make sure to leave a comment. That really helps the channel along. And of course, a like and a subscribe would be very much appreciated. I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.